Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jen Trepic, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. This week, we're talking about rice cakes. Kate, not to put you on the spot, do you like rice cakes? Do you eat them?
I do, actually. I love rice cakes with like a little bit of peanut butter, or if it's like my nighttime snack, like a little Nutella.
Yum. So I remember rice cakes. I feel like it was a million years ago when I did every fad diet under the sun. I felt, especially with Weight Watchers, because rice cakes were like low points or no points, and it was like that crunchy, carby texture that like made them so appealing. And I have to be honest, I have not eaten them in years. But people will tell me how much they love their rice cakes. And then there's also the people who are very particular about their rice cakes and will only have the Trader Joe's ones. So we're going to look into all of them. Now, like I said, I haven't eaten them in a very long time, so I had to turn to the magic of the interwebs. I started with the Quaker rice cakes because that's what I feel like. I don't know if they really were the OG, but in my head, they're like the original. And I went to the lightly salted flavor because I was sort of like, okay, that's generic, but not as cardboard as the unsalted plain. So their marketing says gluten-free, which I would expect nothing less because rice doesn't have gluten, so I sure hope so. Then it says 9 grams of whole grain per serving. And we're going to come back to that because this claim to me connects to a lot of the old guidelines around eating, where I'll just say the average American eats more grain than an Olympic athlete is recommended to eat on race day. So this is old guidelines about grains. And then it says 35 calories per serving. And I just have to pause at this point because literally their marketing is hitting every fad diet button and buzzword. Right? Between the gluten-free, the calories, the whole grains, it's like no matter what you're trying to do, we're going to fit. So then I went to the nutrition facts. Again, it's a lightly salted flavor. Serving size is 1 rice cake. We have 35 calories, 0 grams of fat, 7 grams of carbs, of which there's 0 grams of fiber, and we have less than 1 gram of protein. On the micronutrient front, the amounts are negligible. It's 0.1 milligrams of iron. I'm almost in shock that they put it on there at all. And then 30 milligrams of potassium. The ingredients are pretty clean. It just says whole grain brown rice and salt. So all in, if you're looking at calories, you're going to say this is great, right? Not many calories, fits that carby crunchy craving. But when we dig deeper, we also see that there's no fat, no fiber, no protein. So we're not really hitting any of our macronutrient buttons. The micronutrients were also basically 0. So essentially, this is the definition of empty carbs. Now, with that said, 1 rice cake has a net carb of 7, which generally falls within our guidelines of net carbs of a food being a single digit. So, okay. Then I go to the practical piece. How many of us are eating just 1 rice cake? I know for myself, I just inherently take 2 out of the package. You too?
Yeah, I'm like laughing over here because I'm like, yeah, who takes 1 rice cake out? Like, no, it's automatically 2.
Right. So most of us are now having more than 1, which means in order to blunt the impact of the carbohydrates, we must be adding quality fat, like your nut butter, protein, or fiber, which we typically look to veggies or sometimes fruit in order to balance out those higher glycemic carbohydrates. And I'm sharing this because nothing in life is about eliminating the foods. It's about figuring out how to eat them and enjoy it all, right? So it's not don't eat the rice cake. It's here's how to build it in. And frankly, I'm like, we have to add things to it because they taste like cardboard. Like, and I say this with love, but can we all just call a spade a spade? Like, they're not inherently delicious. All right. So then, because they taste like cardboard, and Quaker knows that, they have a million bajillion flavors. Scientific number. So we talk about it all the time. we have to read the label of every flavor of a product, even if they're from the same brand or theoretically the same thing. We can't assume that because one checks out, they all will. So I then went to the apple cinnamon flavor. I'm still on, Quaker's website. So this one, the nutrition facts were about, like the small ones that were maybe sort of like the size of like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inch circles, and they were much thinner because this says the serving size is 16 pieces. So I have to think that's like the smaller ones. But I will say 16 of those is a much more realistic serving size. Okay, then we get to these nutrition facts. 110 calories, 0.5 grams of fat, of which it says 0 grams of saturated fat, 0 grams of trans fat, 0 grams of unsaturated fat. That's interesting, right? Doesn't totally add up.
Yeah, the math is not mathing.
Right. 25 grams of carbs, of which there's less than 1 gram of fiber, 8 grams of sugar, all of which are added sugar, and then there's 1 gram of protein. Micronutrients, basically the same as the other ones, 0.3 milligrams of iron, 40 milligrams of potassium. So still, we have approximately 0 nutritional value on any nutrient front. So they're not giving us anything our bodies truly need. And it's still plain carbs. But this time, we have a net carb of 25, which is certainly more than the 9 that we would typically want it to be at a maximum. So now one option might be to have less than a full serving. Maybe we use a couple of them and like crumble them up on top of something to give it a little crunch. But then we have to look at the ingredients because it did say there was added sugar, but we're always looking at the ingredients too. So, okay. And here, they're not quite as simple as the plain lightly salted ones. We have whole grain brown rice flour, sugar, corn grits, corn maltodextrin, natural flavor, salt, cinnamon, vegetable oil, canola and or sunflower oil, soy lecithin, purified stevia leaf extract, tocopherols for freshness. So here's what I see are some like red or yellow flags depending on how you roll. So kind of makes me laugh. Number one, it's not whole grain brown rice. It's whole grain brown rice flour. And by definition, once it's flour, it's no longer whole because it was ground up to become a flour. Okay, next thing, sugar is the second ingredient. And on top of the sugar, there's also maltodextrin. So maltodextrin, I'm personally not a fan of. We've talked about it in other nutrition nuggets, but essentially it's often used as like a sweetener or a thickening agent or a stabilizing agent. It's highly processed. And they told us it's from corn, but it could come from corn, rice, potato starch, or wheat. And it's high glycemic. It also, for some people, can negatively impact our gut health. So maltodextrin, want to be on the lookout for. And then they also have stevia, another sweetener in there. So lots of sugar sweeteners, even, some people are stevia fans, some people aren't. You do you, but 3 different kinds of sweeteners in there. And then I'm also not a fan of the vegetable oil. It's not one of the quality fats that's really health supporting and giving our bodies what they need. So ingredient wise, this one would be a pass for me. You could decide what works for you. I would also say that's kind of the beauty of all of this is that you get to decide for yourself. So, all right, I will say I promised everybody the Trader Joe's. So Trader Joe's rice cakes. They are the super thin ones. They're called organic rice cake thins. They tout the square shape versus the round shape. I don't know. Great. The serving size is 6 thins. So that might be the selling point for people. I don't know. Okay, so then they tout simple ingredients, being gluten-free. We're going to look for ourselves. So serving size 6 thins, 110 calories, 1 gram of fat, of which it's 0 grams of saturated fat and 0 grams of trans fats, 23 grams of total carbs with 1 gram of fiber, 0 grams of sugar, and then 3 grams of protein. Again, very small amounts of iron and potassium. The ingredients read organic brown rice and sea salt. So it's kind of the exact same scenario as the Quaker lightly salted, right? We're getting these empty carbs, which is just carbohydrates devoid of nutritional value. The net carb count of your entire serving here is 22, which more than we want it to be. This might be easier to have half a serving or a smaller portion than the Quaker one or than, some of the other ones. Still, we want to pair them with protein, fiber, quality fat to round out our snack and blunt the impact of those carbohydrates. I think all in, where does this leave us? You get to decide. For me, I'm still not in on the rice cakes on the regular. I think occasionally, sure, like they can hit the spot. I think the best use would be to take, one of the Quaker or a couple of the Trader Joe's thin ones and then break them up into pieces and use them like a condiment. So throw them on top of soup or on a salad like croutons versus using them to base our entire meal or snack. I would stick to the basic flavors and then add your own apple and cinnamon and whatever else, because as we said, we're going to need to add fiber and protein and quality fat. So add your own flavor versus buying the flavored ones. And remember, read the labels, right? Each flavor, read the label. I think the key piece is just to realize that there's a difference between something marketed to us as healthy and something that's truly offering nutrition and nourishment and health supporting. So rice cakes might serve a purpose for us, like texture-wise, 100%. They're just not offering nutrition. Again, that doesn't mean it's a hard no. It just means we're going to build the meal or the snack to give our bodies what they need and then use these like a condiment rather than a full food group. Kate, any thoughts? Anything you want to add?
Ooh, well, I just love how you compared the ingredient lists, because when you see and hear the ingredient list from the first to the second, or even the second to the third, it is staggering how many ingredients were in that flavored option. And I always like to think if I can't pronounce one of the ingredients easily, it's for me, it raises a flag of, okay, I need to understand this more deeply. And the way you broke it down was so beautiful. And so it's just such a great reminder to look at the foods that we're eating. And sometimes we can make things really complicated. And I love how easy this is, how uncomplicated it gets to be like, well, yes, the one that's just the rice and the salt sounds like a much better option for me in terms of fueling my body well. And you made that so easy to see and to hear. I love that.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jen Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jen Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. I really want to hear from you. I love nothing more. Send your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Kate House, thank you again for joining us.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. I could sit here and chat with you all day. It's seriously the highlight of my day. Thank you.
Same. And friend, if you are not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and most importantly, it supports your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the grilled steak with green beans, tomatoes, and chimichurri sauce, and access to the quarterly live Q&A for members only. As I mentioned, you're going to have 2 dates, so you can even come to both if your schedule allows. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.